You ever find yourself reaching for a snack and you know it's not good for you, but it's like your hand is moving on its own? Yeah, it happens to all of us. Today, we're going to dive into that, the powerful, almost invisible grip of our eating habits, especially when it comes to ultra-processed foods, and figure out how we can actually take back the controls.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. We'd love to think we're making all these logical, rational food choices, but the truth, up to 80% of what we do, what we eat, is pure habit. We're pretty much running on a kind of dietary autopilot that's been programmed over years and years of repetition. So, to really get a grip on why we eat what we eat today, we have to rewind a bit. We've got to explore how these incredibly powerful food habits get wired into us in the first place, often long before we have any say in the matter.
What's so wild is just how sticky these early patterns are. The habits we pick up as kids, from our families and the world around us, they don't just vanish when we grow up. Nope, they create these biological echoes that carry over into adulthood. It literally hardwires our preferences for certain tastes and textures, which is exactly why trying to change your diet as an adult can feel like such an impossible uphill battle. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about what was going on inside our heads. Over the last few decades, the entire world around us was completely reshaped. Our food landscape changed, and boy did it change fast. It created this perfect storm of factors that made ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, pretty much impossible to avoid. It really was a perfect storm, right? You had this rising demand for convenience smashing right into the food industry's push for super cheap ingredients. Then you have food scientists perfecting what they call hyperpalatability, making foods so perfectly salty, sweet, and fatty that you literally can't stop eating them. And all of this was backed by massive marketing budgets that made sure these UPFs were absolutely everywhere you looked. This wasn't some slow, gradual change, it was a total systemic takeover that made these foods the default choice for millions. And this, right here, shows you the end game. Our entire environment was re-engineered. All of a sudden, the easiest, the most available, and often the cheapest choices were also the unhealthiest ones. The produce section seemed to get smaller and smaller, while the aisles of boxes and bags just exploded. We didn't just choose this new reality. In many ways, it was built all around us. So, what happens to our actual bodies when we're living in this new environment? Well, it turns out this flood of ultra-processed food didn't just change our habits on the surface, it started to hijack our biology deep down, creating this powerful feedback loop that is incredibly difficult to break out of. Okay, so the key to understanding this whole biological hijacking starts with this one word: dysbiosis. I know it sounds super complex, but it's actually simple. It just means an imbalance in the trillions of tiny bacteria living in your gut. See, when you constantly feed them unhealthy, ultra-processed junk, you're not just feeding yourself, you're basically growing an army of microbes that thrive on that stuff.
And here's how that little army basically takes command. Step 1, you eat the ultra-processed foods. Step 2, that creates the gut imbalance, the dysbiosis. Step 3, those junk-loving bacteria start sending signals all the way up to your brain through something called the vagus nerve, demanding more of the food they love. And finally, step 4, your brain gets those signals and says, "Hey, I'm craving chips," and you reach for more UPFs, starting the whole vicious cycle all over again. But, and this is super important, there is no one-size-fits-all answer here. Your unique genetics, your metabolism, your life history, all of it plays a huge role. I mean, two people can eat the exact same diet and have completely different health outcomes. So understanding your own body, your own biology, is absolutely key. So we have a system of habits, an environment pushing us toward unhealthy foods, and a biology that's getting hijacked. What's the big deal? I mean, what are the real-world consequences of this cycle? Well, this is where things get really, really serious. 14. Just let that number sink in for a second. This isn't a hypothetical. This is a real example of a 14-year-old kid needing hemodialysis. That's a life-altering treatment for kidney failure, all because of diet-related disease. Conditions like type 2 diabetes are no longer just diseases of old age. This is the reality we're dealing with now. And this brings us to a really powerful way of thinking about our health. Seeing our body as a vessel. It's not just a machine we're driving around. It is the absolute foundation, the physical layer that makes everything else in your life possible. Your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, all of it. Look, the big takeaway here is that life is kind of built on these three pillars. You've got your personal meaning, what you do with your life, and your shared experience, how you connect with society. But both of those pillars rest entirely on that first one, your biological existence.
If the vessel, your body, is compromised, then everything else starts to get shaky. Your physical health is the non-negotiable foundation for living a full life, period.
Okay, I know. After hearing all of that, it can feel a little daunting, a little bleak even. But this is where the story pivots, because despite all these challenges, we are not powerless. As adults, we have the power to take back control, and the path to actually doing it is getting clearer and clearer every day.
And the good news is there is a ton of it. Awareness about this stuff is absolutely exploding. You see it all over social media, in our communities, people sharing these incredible stories of transformation. They're reducing obesity, they're reversing insulin resistance, and they're just feeling more energetic and alive by making the switch from processed junk to whole foods. Change isn't just possible, it's happening all around us. So how do you actually start? It really comes down to this simple 3-step action plan. First, get to know your own unique vessel. Start learning its signals. Second, take a really honest look at your current habits. No judgment. And third, and this might be the most important part, just start small.
And this right here, this is the secret sauce. You don't need some dramatic overnight overhaul. Honestly, that just leads to burnout. Instead, you want to focus on racking up small, consistent wins. Swap one sugary drink for a glass of water. Add one new vegetable to your dinner plate. These little victories, they build on each other, creating this powerful, unstoppable motivation that makes real, lasting change feel not just possible, but actually easy.
So in the end, it all comes down to this one question. This body is the only one you'll ever have. It's the vessel for your entire life experience. So the question isn't just about what you're going to eat for dinner tonight. It's bigger. It's how will you choose to care for your vessel, starting right now.